My name is Felicia Stansel. My art movement project is on non-objective and geometric art. These two pictures shown are two examples of non-objective and geometric arts. They are famous and well-known pieces we will talk about soon. The term non-objective, also known as concrete art, describes any type of abstract art which is wholly devoid of any reference to the natural world. This category of non-representational painting and sculpture typically uses geometrical imagery, which is one of the few sources of non-naturalistic motifs. Hence, it is also referred to as geometric abstraction. This art was developed throughout Europe. Countries that were well known by artists are Russia, Netherlands, France, Switzerland, and more. There were many influences that created this art in this location. This art was created around the 1920s. There were two huge influences of this art. The first one was war. The wars that ravaged Europe in the first half of the 20th century had a profound effect on Western artists and architects. The dizzying array of isms that fragmented the European art world before World War I offered many formal options to post-war innovators. After the Great War, as World War I was then known, members of artist groups such as the Dutch De Gilles and German Bauhaus sought the basis for a new society in several rational beauty and order. The Surrealists and Contrasts celebrated subjectivity, intuition, and chance. The second was constructivism, which is defined as a style or movement in which assorted mechanical objects are combined into abstract mobile structural forms. The movement originated in Russia in the 1920s and has influenced many aspects of modern architecture and design. In Russia, the most dynamic artist achievements of the period immediately following World War I came from the avant-garde artists who enthusiastically supported the Russian Revolution. Among these artists were constructivists, who were committed to the notion that artists should leave the studio and go into the factory where the real body of life is made. They envisioned politically engaged artists devoted to creating useful objects and promoting the aims of collective society. Non-objective paintings typically uses geometric motifs on a shallow picture plane. As a general rule, no use is made of linear perspective to create the illusion of pictorial depth. Neither is impasto applied to create textural effects. Also, the picture is purposely devoid of any references to the worldly things, either material or emotional. Non-objective art is abstraction in its purest form. The first artist we will talk about is Piet Mondrian. From about 1920, in paintings such as composition with yellow, red, and blue, he restricted his formal vocabulary to three primary colors: red, yellow, and blue. The three neutrals, black, gray, and white, and horizontal and vertical lines. The two linear directions are meant to symbolize the harmony of a series of opposites, including the male versus female, individual versus society, and spiritual versus material. His work, like this picture that is shown, is well known for its abstract and is also oil on canvas piece. Mondrian achieved this equilibrium throughout the precise arrangement of color areas of different size, shape, and weight, asymmetrically grouped around the edges of a canvas whose center is dominated by a large area of white. One of his pictures shown here is what made him most famous. It is called Composition with Yellow, Red, and Blue. Three further works of his art are shown right here. The first one on the top left is called Pier and Ocean and is created in 1915. The middle one is called Composition with Color Planes and it was created in 1917. The third painting is called Losange and with 4 lines in gray. This last one was created in 1926. The next artist is named Charles Edouard Generet. Like the Dutch proponents of De Gilles, followers of French movement known as Purism firmly believed in the power of art to change the world. The leading Purist figure was the Swiss Charles Edouard Generet, a largely self-taught architect and designer who moved to Paris in 1917. 3 years later, Generet, partly to demonstrate his faith in the ability of individuals to remake themselves, renamed himself Le Corbusier, a play on the French word for crow. Le Corbusier's Villa Savoy has become an icon of the international style. This weekend retreat house near Versailles is the purest embodiment of his domino construction system, first elaborated in 1914, in which seemingly floating slabs of concrete reinforced with steel bars were positioned on freestanding steel posts. This elevation of the house allowed the owners arriving from Paris to drive right underneath it and into a 3-car garage. Le Corbusier referred to this building as a machine for living, meaning that it was as rationally designed as an automobile or an airplane, which was his influence. Three more works of art by Charles Edouard Generet are shown here. The first one on top is called The Assembly Building in India. This was during 1955. The second one is called Secretariat Building, also in India, during 1953. The third one on the bottom is called Notre Dame de Huat during 1954. The last artist we will talk about is named L. Lissitzky. His work greatly influenced the Bauhaus and constructivist movement, and he experimented with production techniques and stylist devices that would go on to dominate 20th century graphic design. In 1923, L. Lissitzky created his most famous piece of work show called Prawn Room, which is shown right next to the portrait of himself. It is a chamber articulated with prawn motifs in 2 or 3 dimensions, abstract but possibly symbolic. The original was made for a major exhibition in Berlin. The image is not a painting, but a structure around which we see circles looking at it from all sides, peering down from above, investigating from below. So this is an actual reconstruction with metal wall, floors, windows, and colors. He became influenced by one of his professors, Malevich. The first picture shown here is called The Constructor, that was created in 1924. The middle picture was called A Prawn, and this was during 1925. The last picture on the bottom right was a print shop he designed. These are 3 further works of art by L. Lisinski. By avoiding all references to naturalism, non-objective art cannot age. Its significance will never be downgraded as well. It is influencing the future by architecture being more modern as we see this more frequently. Those buildings never age. The ultimate goal of this art is to demonstrate a universal style with applications beyond the realm of art.